Okay. Okay, I think you can hear me, right? Anyone having any issues in? I'll share my screen also. So you can see my screen. You can put it in the chat, yes or no kind of thing. All the people, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, right. Okay, so we'll get started for today. Okay.
Sir, my name is Shiva. I just joined today only.
Yeah, sure. This is I mean, we had one prior class which is a demo kind of thing. Okay, so we are not started at basically anything. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So we'll get started for today. I think rest of the people they joined on, except Shiva, rest of the people they joined on the last class, right? Where we had the basic discussion like what is DB2 and what is the course about. Shiva, you I think the Visualpath people will be sending you a link which has the recording message of the last time demo. Okay, so you can go through it if you want to. Okay.
Okay. Is there any important topic
No,
covered?
no important. Just I was just trying to cover like what all things are taught in the class. That's all. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So today we'll get started. I open the Linux box. Okay. Few things before getting started, which you should be knowing is basically okay. I'll open some notepad. So the course, as I told you in the last class, also the course is for DB2 on LUW, which we call it as Linux, Unix, and Windows. Some people, it has different acronyms, different names. Some people they call it as DB2 UDW, where UDW stands for Universal Database. So it has multiple names. So some people they call it as DB2 on AX also. So don't worry about the names. So DB2 UDB or DB2 LUW or DB2 on AX, everything is same. So that is what we are trying to learn in this course basically. Okay. Just before getting started, I'll give you some basic background about like what on things basically. Okay. So in the last class, like we have seen, like there are different RDBMSs, or we call it as relational databases, which are present in the market. We have something called Oracle, DB2, SQL Server, Sybase, Teradata, Netezza. I have listed few of the things which we have seen in the last class. Okay. So today, for beginning, we'll start. There are a lot of operating systems which are present in the market which you can use. Okay, I think a lot of things you might be already knowing. Okay, so I am just trying to list few of things. Windows, most of the people you might be knowing working already in Windows. Okay, so Windows is one of the operating system which most of the workstation people will be using or desktop users will be using in real time basically. Okay, apart from Windows, we have Linux. Remember, Linux has different distributions, like we call it as Red Hat Linux, SUSE Linux, Ubuntu, Fedora. So these are different flavors of Linux basically. Okay, but when I say flavors of Linux, see, simple thing is Linux is an open source. You can download it from the internet, you can install it, you can use it. You need not pay anything to anyone basically. Okay. In contrast to Linux, the rest of the things are licensed software. Like Windows, if you want to use Windows, you need to pay the money to the respective company. Like you need to pay money to the Microsoft if you want to use the Windows things basically. Okay. So apart from this, there is something called AX. So AX is nothing but AX is IBM operating system for Unix basically. Okay, the reason I am trying to specify about AX is in a lot of companies, they keep AX operating system, which is very critical operating system, which is very robust operating system, and a lot of critical servers or important servers they put on AX only basically, because AX is one of the most the robust operating system, as I told you before basically. Okay, apart from that, there are few other things like Solaris, HP UX. Solaris is an operating system of Sun Microsystems, but it was acquired by Oracle a few years back, so it's an operating system of Oracle corporations basically. Okay. HP UX is a Unix of HP basically. So HP is a big company basically. Okay, so it has an operating system which is called as HP UX basically. Okay. The reason why I'm trying to mention all the operating systems in this today's in the beginning of the class is, remember, DB2 runs on all the operating systems. So DB2 runs on Windows, DB2 runs on Linux, DB2 runs on AX, DB2 runs on Solaris, and DB2 runs on HPUX basically. Okay, so the good part was, if you know the basics of Linux or the basic commands of Linux, the commands are same. So if you know the basic commands of Unix or Linux, the same commands will run on Linux, the same commands will run on AX, the same command will run on Solaris, the same commands will run on HPUX. Okay, so try to be comfortable with the Linux basics. So if you don't know Linux basics, so don't worry about it. I'll teach you as a part of this course. I'll teach you the basics of Linux. Okay, the basics, when I say the things which are very important from DB perspective to support the applications basically. Okay, so if you know it well and good, you can learn few advanced Linux things also basically. So if you don't know, also don't worry. I'll teach you the Linux. I'll be teaching it every day basically. So every day for 15 to 20 minutes, I'll be teaching in Linux basically. Okay. Maybe you can let me know like how many people know Linux very good and how many people still want to learn it. You can put it on the chat. So how many people were comfortable with the Linux, or how many people want to learn? Hello? Yeah? Any questions? I heard a voice simply. Okay, you want to learn Linux also, right? Okay, I'll teach you Linux. Okay. Just one second, I'll edit my name so that it becomes easy. Okay. Okay, yeah. But before I'll teach you Linux, see, once you know the basic commands of Linux, the same command will run on AX, the same commands will run on Solaris, the same commands will run on HPUX. Okay, so if you are comfortable with the Linux, so this part will be clear. You might be already comfortable with the Windows. I think most of the people, they're already working on Windows. So everything will be well covered as a part of this course basically. Before we move to the actual course, any things which you want to know? Clear, right? What is the thing kind of thing? Yes, okay. Moving ahead, basically. Okay, so if you don't have anything, I'll teach you Linux, so don't worry about it. The Linux is the first thing which I will teach before starting the course. So as we teach the Linux, I'll be teaching the basic commands of DB2 also, so both can go parallelly. Okay, within the week, the first week you'll be very comfortable with the Linux, you'll be very comfortable with the DB2 basic commands. Okay, so my suggestion will be, try to practice DB2 on Windows and also try to practice DB2 on Linux also. Do it in both the way. I'll give you all the softwares. I'll help you to set up the softwares. I'll help you to make DB2 run on Linux box. Okay, so I'll give you all the softwares. I'll give you the link from where you can download it. Okay, you can download it and you can use it basically. Okay, yes. So we'll move ahead. So remember, this is the first class, so I'll be telling you like what is the setup and what is the setup which you need to follow. Just try to listen this carefully, and if you're stuck somewhere, just let me know, or I will give my email ID also. You can drop me email. I'll be continuously checking my emails and I'll respond back to you very immediately. Okay. So what I did here is basically I created a VMware image of Linux which has DB2 pre-installed. So if you're wondering what is VMware, VMware is nothing but it's a virtualization software. Okay, simple thing. I'll give you a simple example so that you can understand it very clearly. Okay, as you people might be knowing Windows. Say, let's say I have a Windows 7 on my workstation. I'm using Windows 7. Okay, Windows 10 is something like which came recently in the market. Okay, I can do one thing. I can simply upgrade my server from Windows 7 to Windows 10. I can do that basically, definitely. But if I don't like Windows 10 and the moving back to Windows 7, you need to do another steps basically. Okay, so rather than that, can I create a virtual machine? You know what is virtual machine, right? Virtual machine in the sense the machine won't be there. You're just trying to create it virtually basically. Okay, so on the same lines, so can I create a virtual machine? Yes, you can create a virtual machine. On the same lines, can I create a virtual machine with Linux also? Yes, you can create it. Okay. So what I did, I created a virtual machine. Basically, on the virtual machine, I installed few softwares like I installed Red Hat Enterprise 6th edition. I installed DB2 version on it basically. Okay. So I did the configuration, which I call it as VMware image. Okay. So if you want to see the file, I'll show you the files just for your understanding. Okay. So this is the file which I created basically. So if you want to see the size, it's 11.4 GB. Okay. If I compress it, it will come to something near to 5 GB or something basically. Okay. The reason why I'm trying to show you here is I'll upload this file to the Google Drive and I will give you the link. So you just need to do two simple steps basically. You need not worry about Linux. You need not worry about the things. Okay. The two simple steps which you have to do is to install VMware workstation software. So the first thing you have to do is you need to just install VMware workstation software on your machine basically. So I'll give you the software. So you just need to download the software from the link which I give you. So once you download it, you just need to install it. Install is very simple. There is a setup file. You need to just run the setup file. That's all. Two things which you need to do. Okay. So once you install VMware software, which I will share with you, second thing is download the file. So when I say the file, this is a file which I will be uploading it. So you just need to download this simple file basically. Okay. The file will be something around 5 GB. Okay. So it takes some time to download it after compression. Okay. So if you download this file, okay, your what to say, setup is ready basically. Your setup is ready means you have Linux server with you, you have DB2 already pre-installed there. You can simply open the server and you can play with the server. It's as simple as that. You need to just do two things basically. Okay. If you want to know the background, what I did, I created a VMware image in which I have installed VMware Red Hat Enterprise 7 copy. I installed DB2 on the top of it basically. I created a bundle, or you can say it as I created a zip file kind of thing. I'll give you the zip file. You simply download it and open it. You will get the Linux server and you will get the DB2 server. It's as simple as that basically. Okay. So if you want to see it, okay, you just need to download this file. So once you go to this file, I'll tell you there is one file which you need to open. Just right click and say open with the VMware software. So once you open it, you will get a Linux server. So you'll get something like this one basically. Just 1 second. Okay. So you will get the Linux server in this fashion. So once you open the Linux server, you can run all the Db2 commands. It has Db2 already installed here. You can simply practice it basically. Okay. It's as simple as that. Any questions in this? The only thing which you need to do is to download two softwares, VMware software, and download the file which I give you. Install this, run the exe. So once you install VMware workstation, you will see icon. I'll show you the icon also for you. You will see this player, and you can see one more icon. Show you. Okay. I think here workstation is not there. I installed only player basically, but I'll give you the software for what to say, the software for the workstation. Okay, you can install workstation on your laptops basically. Workstation has all the features basically. Player does not have all the features. And open the file. I'll tell you how to open the file and other things. Okay, so once you open both the things, you'll get the Linux. This has already DB2 pre-installed, so you can simply open it. You can practice it. You can run the commands basically. Okay. And once you are done, you can. I'll show you some basic commands as I told in the last class. So once you open it, you will get something like this basically. Okay. So this is the Linux server. Okay. So I'll tell you some basic Linux commands for today, maybe for 15 to 20 minutes. Just try to understand the commands basically. After that, we'll see the DB2 commands. Okay. Linux for 15 minutes and rest of the time for DB2. Okay. First thing, once you open it, okay, let's get started. Linux basic command C. you might be knowing about Windows, right? I'll just tell you the basics of different Windows and Linux. See, in most of the operating systems, either Windows or Linux or AX or anything, basically, you'll do the same thing. You'll be running the commands, and the commands will be running internally, basically. Okay. But remember, Windows is so graphically easy thing, like they made you lazy kind of thing. Basically, everything which you want to do, they made it graphically so rich that you doesn't really know like what is happening at the back end. Okay, but if you learn Linux or AX or any other Unix-based operating systems, you need to run a lot of commands basically. Okay, so remember in Windows, you'll see you run a lot of GUI things, but in Linux, you'll run a lot of commands basically. Okay, I'll tell you what commands you can run. And commands are very simple. You just need to understand the logic of the command. If you understand the logic of the command, commands becomes very simple basically. Okay, let's get started. In Linux, you have to open the terminal. As I told you here, once you open the Linux, simply right click here. You can open something called open terminal. A terminal will open. Okay, so if you want to open one more thing, you can open one more thing basically. So you can open any n number of terminals and you can run the commands in Linux basically. Okay, so we'll work with few terminals. Okay, so when you open this, you'll see something like this. This is nothing but the user with which you logged in, and this is my server name. Here I kept my server name as primary, the user with which I logged in as root. Okay, now we'll start like what is the difference between Windows and Linux kind of thing basically. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, first thing, just give me 1 second, it got hanged or something. Hello, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, sir, hearing.
You can hear me, right? Okay. I think something got hanged up. Okay, no, it got released. Okay. See, in Windows, in companies or at home, basically when you install Windows, you'll create a user. Basically, I think this most of the people might be knowing it, right? You create a user which is called administrator. So administrator is a user through which you can do all the things basically. Say you are at home, basically you are trying to install new operating system, so it will prompt you for creation of administrator user, or you can give the password for administrator. Okay, or at the same time you can create another user, but it will ask you whether you want to put this user in administrator group or something else. Okay, simple thing is administrator is a user. If you're having administrator in Windows, you can do anything in Windows, like you can start the system, you can stop the system, you can reboot your system kind of thing basically. Okay, if you do not have administrator in Windows, you have limited permissions basically, so you cannot see let's say if you join any company, you will be given a laptop or a desktop basically, and they'll give you some user ID basically. Okay, so a lot of company people, they say it as MSID, some people they say it as NTID, so different companies has different conventions of naming it. Okay, so the user which was given to you, some companies, a lot of companies, they might be, your user might not belong to administrator permissions. It will have very limited access basically. Okay, so if you log on to the system, you cannot do all the activities, like you cannot install new softwares because you are not administrator. You cannot do a reboot of the servers because you are not administrator basically. Okay, so there are a lot of restrictions which they will give you in companies basically. Okay, but remember, but still, if you have administrator of any system, you have administrator permissions on any system, you can do whatever you want to do. Okay, the same thing in Linux, Unix, AX, or any operating system, we call him as a root basically. So who is root? Root is nothing but he's a super user. Okay, simple language, he's a super user who can do all the activities on Linux box. So whatever be the administrator user can do on Windows, the same thing can be done by root on Linux basically. Okay, so remember, if you join any company, they won't give you the root user ID, they won't specify the password for the root, because if they give you, you have complete control on the system. On the same lines, if your company is having servers on Windows, no one will share with you the administrator permissions of the of the Windows boxes basically. Okay, so as I told you, root is nothing but he's a super user he can do all the commands. Okay. The reason why I'm trying to stress root is if you download the softwares which I have given here, so once you download the softwares, you can log in to the softwares using some user ID password. Okay, so make a note of it. The login user ID is root, means you have super user, you can do all the commands, and the password which I have set for this setup is Red Hat. So just make a quick note of it basically. Okay, so if you once you download the softwares, you can simply open it. If you want to log in here, just specify the username as root and the password as Red Hat. So once you specify it, you can log in. You can log in internally basically. Okay, clear? So I have shared with you. I'll give you the links basically from where you can download it. Just give me 1 day. I'll upload the softwares to the Google Drive. I'll share you the links. Okay. So once you have the softwares, you can download it. You can open it and you can log on to the servers. You can practice the Linux. You can practice DB2 on the top of it basically. Okay. Any questions till this point before we move forward? How to set up, what is Linux, how to download the softwares from where? I'm just trying to explain you my setup basically, which I created. Okay, we'll get started. Okay, so once you open the Linux, log in as root and password. That's why you're seeing it as root here. Okay, simple thing. Simple commands, we'll see. So the first command which we'll see is basically ls. I think most of the people, ls is nothing but it will show you list of files and directories. Simple thing. Let's say in Windows, I want to find out like what all files are there in D drive basically. So what you normally do in Windows, you go to my computer somewhere, you just go to, okay, this does not have a D drive. Okay, so let's say I want to check what files are there in C drive and program files. So you go to C drive, you go to program files, and you see what files are here. So in Windows, if you see it here, you are seeing everything through graphically basically. So you're just trying to click with mouse or you're trying to go pass through the directory and see it here. Okay. But remember, as I told you in Linux, everything is command line. So just open the terminal. How to open the terminal? If you don't know how to open the terminal, it's very simple. This got stuck again. Just give me 1 more minute. Okay. Right click, open terminal. So you'll get a command. Okay. So ls. So what ls will tell you? Ls will tell you how many files are there in the specific current directory and how many directories are there basically. Okay. You can see here. You can see this is one file which was created here. Don't worry about the names of the file. Another file, another file, another file. So you can see a lot of files here. Okay. But here in this Red Hat Linux, anything which you see in blue is a directory. Anything which you see in black is a file. Okay. In Windows also you can create files, you can create directories, basically kind of thing. Okay. On the same lines, in Linux also you can create files and directories basically. Okay. So remember, ls is a basic command which will tell you how many files are there and how many directories are there in the current directory basically. Okay. Second important thing which should, let's come back to Windows. The simple question is, can my server in Windows can I have multiple users? Yes, you can create multiple users in Windows. Okay, so can I log on to any user in Windows? Yes, you can log on to any user by specifying the username and password. Can I switch from one user to another user? Yes, you can switch from one user to another user, but in Windows it's very complicated. If you want to switch from one user to another user, see how people do, they go to shutdown button. Here it's disabled, but in your computers you can see there's a button called switch user where they can switch to another user. Okay, but the question is, let's say I log on to a Windows server using user ID as Raju, and after logging in user ID as Raju, I want to switch to a different ID basically. Okay, let's say I want to switch to a user ID by name Ravi kind of thing basically. Okay, so what you need to do, you need to go to this bar in Windows, you need to go here, do here, switch user here. I think here it's not enabled. Then go to Ravi, and but the question is, can I work on, if I move to Ravi and if I want to move back to Raju, you again need to do the switch user. Again, you have to come to the this user ID which is Raju. Okay, so the thing is, can I work with two users parallelly? Can I log on to both the users log parallelly and run the commands? No, you cannot do it in Windows basically. Okay, but the good part in Linux is you can switch from one user to another user. You can run commands parallelly. You can do whatever you want to do. That's why Linux is considered to be the multi-user databases, multi-command databases. Everything you can do it in parallel basically. Okay. So the second simple thing is, let's see how to switch users. I hope all the people know what are users, right? Or I'll teach you what is users. Users are nothing but, see, let's say I have a server, and in this session, I think we have 6 people. Okay, if you want to log on to any server, you should have an user ID on that server, basically. Okay, so in company, let's say I have a DB2 server in my company, and we are from a same team. Let's assume that we are from the same team. Okay, I should be having my individual ID, and you should be having an individual ID, and other person should have individual IDs. Okay, if you join any company, your IDs which are said as MTID or MSID or NTID will be created in the server basically. Okay, so in Linux, I can create a user, or I can. So in Windows, how do you create user? I think most of the people, they know how to create a user in Windows. In Windows, I'm just trying to compare Windows and Linux so that in Windows you know it, you can easily simulate how to do it in Linux basically. Okay. In Windows, how do you do it? Go to Control Panel. You should go to somewhere called Users Account. Okay, User Account here. The system is a bit slow today. Don't know why. Okay, so here you can see if you want to create a new user, I think, okay, this is my office ID, so it has a lot of restrictions. Okay, but if you look at your your desktops, you can easily create a new user. Okay, so here it has some restrictions basically, but if you go to the control panel and see here, basically you should be able to see an option called how to create a new user, how to set a password for it basically. Okay, so in Windows it's very simple. Okay, in Linux, if you want to create a user, as I told you, for everything you need to run a commands. Okay, so what is the command in Linux? The command is called user add. Okay, so this is a command which will create a user in Linux or AX or anything, any operating system like Linux, AX, HP, Solaris, anything. If you want to create a user, the simple command is user add. The command itself says that, okay, you are trying to add a user basically. Okay, I'll run the command on Linux server so you can see it and you can feel it. Okay, so as I told you, the command is user add. I'm trying to create. So I'm creating a user. So what is my username? My username is Rajus basically. Okay. In Windows also, can you set a password for a user? Yes. Go to control panel, click on the user there, and it will ask you different options. One of the options will be setting a password. Okay. In Linux also, you can set a password for a user. If you want to set a password for any user, the command is passwd. So look at these commands. The commands are, this command is going to tell you that, okay, I want to set a password for which user ID. This is a user ID. Okay. So if I put enter, you can see there what it is prompting. It is prompting to specify a password for the user. Okay. So I'm giving some dummy password just to show you. So I typed the password. So you can see that it is asking you to retype the password. Okay. I'm going to retype the password. Okay. Maybe I have given the wrong password. Okay. You can see that, okay, all authentication token updated successfully, which means that your user ID was created and the password was already set for the user ID. So, clear basically. So how to create a user in Linux? Make a note of these commands. Okay, or I will send you this notepad after the class. I'll send you these things basically. Okay. But if you want to create a user ID, the command is user add. If you want to set a password, the command is so these are some of the basics. Okay, so you can go to Google and try to do some more research on it, basically how to create user and how to set a password also basically. Clear? Any questions till this point before we move forward? Hello? Yes, no, maybe? Clear?
No, sir.
Okay, that's good. Okay. Okay, now we have seen how to list the files and how to create a user basically. Okay. So I'll save this and I'll send you after this class. Okay. So make a note of some of the commands. If you don't know, if you're missing something also, I'll send you this after the class, so don't worry about it. So the next command is, okay, so what is switch user? So let's say I have a server, or I'll draw some picture basically. Okay, let's say I have a server which has 3 users. Can I move from one user to another user? As I told you, I showed you in Windows, if you want to switch user, go to the shutdown button and go switch user, give the password, and you'll be switching to a different thing. Okay, but the issue there here is you cannot work on 2 different user IDs at the same time basically. Okay, but at Linux it's very simple. You need to simply run a command. The command is su space hyphen space username. So this is the command through which you can switch from one user to another user basically. You need to run a command called su, give some space hyphen space the user ID where you want to switch it. Okay, I'll simply run a commands. Okay, in my Linux box I have few user IDs. So these are the user IDs which I created. So this is the user ID which I created. This is the user. So these are the users which already exist. So I'll try to just switch from one user to another user so that you can easily find it out what is happening. Okay. Now look at here, and remember, if I do clear, which means that clear will clear all these contents. Just one second. So I'm writing clear means clear will clear the contents. In Windows, you have to run the command called CLS to remove everything basically. Okay, so Linux commands are a bit different. So you need to run a complete keyword called clear basically. Okay. Now you can see that you are in which user ID? I logged in as root, so you are in root user. Okay. Can I switch to a different user? Yes. So what is the command? This is the command. Now you can see that I switched to a user. Now I am in which user ID? Db2 SAPT basically. Okay. So if you want to switch from one user ID to another user ID, yes, definitely you can switch from one user ID to another. This we will be doing a lot in the companies. That's why I try to understand how to switch from one user ID to another user ID. The command is very simple. It's su space hyphen space the user ID where you want to switch basically. So I switch it to a user called which is Db2 SAPT. Okay. Any questions till this? How to switch from one user ID to another user ID? Okay. Or I'll open one more terminal. Let's try to run multiple things. Okay. If I open it, I log in as root, so you can see it here, root. Can I switch to a new user ID which I just created? Yes. Now you can see that you switch to a different user ID, so which is RAJUS. Now what are the command which you are running here? So you are running with Raju S. Clear? Okay. So you'll understand these things much more clearer once we start working in DB2. Okay, for now, just remember how to create a user, how to switch from one user to another user. Those things should be enough for you basically. Okay. As we move forward, the complexity will increase. You'll understand the new things about the users and other things basically. Okay. And we'll see a few more commands. Okay. There is one more important command which is called who am I, which will tell you. See, who am I? The name itself says that it will tell you which user you are in currently. Let's say I logged in as root, I switch it to Db2 SAPT, then again switch it to Raju, then again switch it to Raju. So let's say that I'm switching to multiple users basically. Okay. Which user ID is switched basically. So is there any command which will tell me to which user ID I'm currently to which user ID I'm currently running the commands? Yes. You need to run a command which is called whoyame. The whoyame command will tell you which user ID you are in currently basically. Okay. This is a very simple command. So if you want to just test it, you can test it up. You can easily find out the outputs of the result sets. Just a second. I'll open you. See, I'm opening the new terminal as this is the first class. In the next classes, might not be opening the terminals again and again. Okay. As this is a new class, you'll be comfortable with how to open kernels and how to run the commands. Okay. Now I logged in as root, so you can see that this is root. Or if you want to see it, you can see run a command called who am I, which will tell you which user ID you are in currently. Now you know that you are in root. Okay. Let's say I'm trying to switch to a different user ID. So what is the user ID to which I'm trying to switch? Let's say I'm trying to switch to DB2 SAPT. So the command is successful. So you can see that I switched it to DB2 SAPT. But let's assume that you forgot to which user ID you switched to. A lot of people think that, okay, here it is showing now why I want to run the commands. In companies, they'll set up in such a fashion that sometimes here these things are not displayed here also. Okay, so if nothing is getting displayed here, you have to run these commands to find it out, like which user ID you are in currently. Okay, so do a command which is called who am I, which will tell you like which user ID you are in currently. So here you can see that you are in currently DB2 SAPT. Or if you want to do one more switch also you can do. Let's say I'm switching to a different user ID. Yes. So I will specify the password. I think I typed it wrongly. Okay. Let me type it again. Okay, now you can see that I switched it to a different user ID, and in case if you forgot which user ID you are in, you can see here you log on to DB2 Raju S. Okay, so at any time if you're switching from one user ID to another user ID, if you forgot which user ID you connected or something, then do who am I, which will tell you which user ID you are in currently, basically. Clear? Any questions on how to create users, how to switch from? Because these things are very important from DBA perspective, from DB2 perspective, and from Linux perspective. Okay. Clear? Okay, so we'll see the next thing. This guy is getting hungry or something. One second. So we'll see the next command, which is let's see what is the command. There are a lot of commands. I'm just trying to just think like which command will be simpler for you in the initial classes. Okay. Okay, I'll tell you one more command which is called cat, not cat. Okay, head, not more. Okay, so we'll see the next command, which is remember, and here if I say ls, it has a lot of options which you can specify. We'll see the options in the next class. If you're creating a user ad, as I told you, you need to specify user ad, but you can specify a lot of options after this, basically. Okay, we'll see some of the options. Okay, maybe I'll try to explain you what are the options in today's class. In the next class, you can see like how many options are there, kind of thing, basically. Okay. So here you can see that I am in user ID. I just did ls, so it has shown me the lot of files. See, after ls, you can put lot of options here. Okay, you can write some options here. Each option has its own significance, basically. Okay, one example, ls-l. If you look at here, it has shown the output in a different way, basically. Okay, in the last column you can see the same file names. Okay, but it is going to tell you the description about the file. Like the same thing, I'll try to explain in Windows so that you can get a better picture understanding, kind of thing. In Windows, you go to any directory. Okay, there's only one file. Okay. Oh, this is something fast. I'm good. So you can see. Okay, I'll display it in a different fashion. You can see this folder where I went, it has different files, basically. Okay, but let's say I want to find out what is the size of this file. So you just click it here, look at the properties, you get the size and other things. If you want to see the security, who has permissions, other things, you can see. So for each and every file, if you want to get the description about the file or details about the file, like what is the size of the file, what permissions the file has, you need to do it manually by looking at the properties of each and every file. Okay, in Linux, if you do the simply ls, it will only show you the files. It will show you the file names. It will tell you whether it is a file or a directory. Okay. And if you want to get more details, like what is the size of the file, who is having the permissions of the file, and when the file was created, there are a lot of details about the files which you might be interested. These things are important because let's say in something crashed, I want to see when was the last time the file got updated or when the file got logged basically. So you have to look at the timestamp, you have to look at when the file was created. So if you want to get more details about the files or directories, the command is after ls, it has few options. So I'm putting an option which is called L, which stands for long listing basically. So you can see here, this is my file, and this file was created on September 7th last year basically, and the time at which it was created is, this is the time. Okay, I'll tell you more about these permissions in the next class, and this file is being owned by user ID called root basically. Okay, you can look at some other file. This file is created on September 7th again, and this file is of size 3577 bytes. Okay, so this column is going to tell me what is the number of bytes or number of size of the file. You can see for each and every file it has a size basically. Okay, this file is having a size. Okay, and it will tell you when the file was created. So it will ls, as I told you, will list the files. -l will tell you, give you the additional information about the files, when the file was created, what is the permission of the file, who created the file, and what is the size of the file. It will give you much more deeper information about each and every file basically. Okay, so remember, for whatever be the commands which I'm teaching, let's say user add, you can give lot of options in such a fashion. So this is a beginning class, so I'm teaching you with no options, but in the next classes you can expect that each and every command, it has a lot of options. So they keep on putting the options basically. So you should be understanding what are options kind of thing basically. Okay, so remember, for today, this is the first class. So if you want to get the more details about the files, the command is ls-l. It has a lot of other options also, which we'll see in the next classes basically. Okay, clear till this point about the Linux basics? Any questions till this point before we move to the next part? Hello? Yes, no?
Okay, sir.
Okay, good, right? So make a note of these things. I'll save it and I'll send you to you also. Okay, so let's move to some DB2 stuff. I think we covered a lot of Linux stuff. So these are very basics. Okay, if you want to do a simple learn something good, okay, just go to. So I'll give you the links. So in the next 2 to 3 classes, what you do, download the softwares, keep the servers ready. What are the commands which I'm teaching here, do it parallelly. So that is the best way to learn the things. Okay, go to Google and say Linux basic. I'll give you the material. Don't worry about the materials and other terms. I have the good material for the beginners. But in between also you can learn a lot of things. Okay, so go to any basic commands. So try to read, don't get stick to one web page kind of thing. Try to read the more amount of things basically. Okay, you can see here ls, list your files, the same things which I'm going to teach you. Okay, so I have not touched a lot of other things, but we'll see it day by day. Okay, so if you're comfortable with all these commands, you should be very good basically with the Linux things. We will cover everything, but for today we covered few of the things, very less amount. These two we covered for today. We'll go step by step, so don't be in a hurry to learn everything in a single day. Okay, but practice is important, so do the more amount of practice. That is much more important basically. Okay, so we'll come back to DB2. Okay, so we'll learn some DB2 commands also today. Okay, so this is the DB2 session. Okay, in the last class, I think for people who joined the last class, I'll just try to do it quickly. I told you some very basic commands. Okay, so the commands which I told you is, how do you find out which version of DB2 is installed? I told you the command is db2 level. You can see here the DB2 version which was installed here is 9.7. I told you if you want to find out how many databases are there, I gave you the commands in the last class. The command is db2 list db directory. So this will tell me how many databases are there. Basically, I'm just doing it. Okay, you can see there are 4 databases. This is 4th database, which is by name sample. third database is by name HRDB. You can see the names of the databases here. Okay. If you just scroll to the top, the first database name is PowerDB or something, HRDB. Okay. And in the last class, I told you, like, if you want to work with any database, you need to connect to the database. I gave you the command. The command is db2. Connect to your database name. So I'm just trying to connect to my database name, which is sample. The connection is successful. Here you can run any commands, like you can run any SQL command to create a table, to drop a table. You can run whatever the commands which you want to run it here, basically. Okay, let's say I am running a command which is going to create a small dummy table. Okay. Okay, we'll keep it simple only. Something wrong. Okay. You can see here I'm trying to create a table. The name of the table is EMP test, and I created few columns. The first column is ID, which is of type integer. Second column is name, which is of type character 5. Third is salary. I'm trying to create an employee table. Employee table is having few columns like ID, employee ID, basically the employee name kind of thing, and the employee salary kind of thing, basically. Okay. So it's a simple way in which you can create a table. Once your work is done, you can remove the connection. As I told you in the last class, how do you remove the connection? The command to remove the connection is command connect reset, basically. Okay. So different ways in which you can start working with DB2. So this is one way. Okay. So a few more things which you should be knowing before we start the course or something, basically. Okay. So you should know DB2 versions. I told you in the last class also DB2 versions. As I told you, like DB2 has different versions which are present in the market, and DB2 has different products which are present in the market. So it should be very clear on the first day what are versions and what are products. Like I'll just try to compare with Windows, which I did in the last class also. Windows has different versions or with different flavors. Like let's start with Windows XP. Windows XP was very hit in the market. After Windows XP, Microsoft has released a software which is called Windows Vista. I think most of the people, they might not be having installed it. After Windows Vista, they came up with a new software which is Windows 7. And after Windows 7, they came up with Windows 8. And after Windows 8, they came up with Windows 10, basically. Okay. So they have different versioning kind of thing, basically. Okay. On the same lines, IBM people, they also released some few versions. Version 8, which is very old version. After 8, they released 9. So this is very important. So make a note of it. 9.5. They released 9.7. Db2 V 10.1. 10.5. So these are some of the versions which are released by IBM. As I told in the last class, 9.7 is something like which is stable at this moment. Most of the companies, they're using 9.7. The latest which was released in the market is 10.5. Okay, a lot of companies, IBM recently released the 10.5 version, basically, and I think people, they're trying to do some certifications on 10.5. Okay, so it takes some time to upgrade the servers to 10.5 and migrate the servers to 10.5, basically. Okay, and remember, this is we covered in the last class. Remember, after every version, let's say 9.7 was released in the year 2006, if I'm not wrong, basically. Okay, and after 10.1 was released in the year 2010 or something. Okay, so you can see there is a span of 4 years in between. I think there is one more version which got released in between, which is DB2 9.8, which is of PureScale. Okay, PureScale is a completely different product. Okay, so I'm not covering it here. Okay, but here you can see that from one version to another version, there is a lot of time frame in between. The same thing happens after Windows 7. Microsoft people, they took a lot of time to release Windows 8, almost 1 2 years basically, and after Windows 8 they took another 2 years to release Windows 10, basically. Okay, so each company cannot release multiple versions in the same year, so that take some time. They will come up with some nice features in the new version, and they will try to project the new features so that they want the clients to migrate to the new versions, basically. Okay, so let's say 9.7 was released in 2006 and some people are using it, and as this is a new software, let's say we are in 2006, as this is a new software, so let's assume that there is a bug which came up in 9.1. You know what are bugs, right? Bugs are nothing but any issues with the software, any errors with the software. Basically, okay. So if you look at, let's say IBM, Microsoft, I think you people know what is service packs, right? So after XP, Microsoft has released service pack 1, then they release service pack 2, then they release service pack 3. So each and every company people, when they release their base products, if they find some bugs in the product, they rectify the bugs by releasing some intermediate softwares, okay? Microsoft people, they call it as service packs. Oracle people, they call it as patches. Some other people, SAP people, they call it as patches. So there are intermediate softwares which are released by the companies to prevent the errors, basically. Okay. So on the same lines, IBM people, they call it as fix packs. So what are fix packs? Fix packs are nothing but they're intermediate softwares which are released by IBM to prevent any bugs, any errors which are present in the main version, basically. Okay, this is very important, so just make a note of it. So IBM releases fix pack 1, fix pack 2, fix pack 3, fix pack 4. So they keep on releasing it. For the latest version also, which is then they release fix pack, I think they release it till 6 or 7. If I'm not wrong, it should be till 6 or 7, basically. Okay. So if someone is asking you which version of DB2 you are working, so make sure that you are telling the base version and you have to also specify the fix packs. Let's say I'm working on the latest version. So in the interview or some place, if some people ask you which version of DB2 you are working, let's say my company has 10.5, so I can tell them the answer of I'm working on 10.5 version of fix pack 4 or something. Anything, any answer basically. Okay, or you can tell that I'm working on 10.1 fix pack 2. So you should be accurate and you should reply with respect to the version and the fix packs, basically. Okay. And if you're wondering what are the versions and how many fix packs are there and what fix pack I have to tell, simply I'll give you a link from where you can see what all versions are there and how many fix packs are released by IBM people. You need not do anything. You can just go to Google and say something like IBM DB2 fix packs download. Type some string which says, okay, the first link, go there. So IBM has a center, so you can look at my screen. It will tell you what is the version. 9.5 is the version here, and it has 12 fix packs. You can go to 9. If you go to 9.5, it has 10 fix packs. 9.7, 11 fix packs. 10.15 and 10.5. You can see that this was released hardly 1 month back, 15 days back. We are waiting for this. We are in touch with IBM, so they just said they released it. Okay. So if you want to just go through these things, just save or bookmark these pages. I will just send you the link. So this is very important throughout the course. You have to refer these things basically. Okay. Okay. Just save the link. So this link will be having the versions. What are the versions and what are the packs? Okay. Let's say in my company has a 3 projects. One project is running on 9.7, another project is running on 10.1, another project is running on 10.5 basically. Okay. So if you're having 3 different versions, you should tell what are the versions on which you're working, and you should tell like which fix pack you're working. Okay. Let's say my company is running on 9.7 and which is running on fix pack 5. Suddenly an issue came or a bug came, and IBM has recommended to go to the latest fix pack, which is fix pack 11. Hello, can you hear me? I think this is audio. Hello? You can hear me, right? Okay. Okay, yeah, I think the audio lost or something in between. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is that, okay, so if you want to download the fix packs, go to the link which I've shared with you. Okay, I think you can download it. The only question which it will ask you is, I clicked on the fix pack 11. It is asking you for which OS you want to download. So this is what I want to show you. Okay, so it is asking you whether you want to download the fix pack for AX or HP or Linux or Solaris or Windows. So Windows, you can see there are 2 different flavors. One is 32-bit and 64-bit basically. Okay, so that's the reason I'm trying to cover like how many operating systems are there, Okay, so if you are running on Linux 32-bit, you should download the fixed pack appropriately, or if you're running on Windows 64 operating system, you should download the appropriate fixed pack basically. Okay, so be clear. So let's say my server is running on Windows 64-bit. I'll go to this link, and you can click on the software which you want to download it. Okay, so it is showing you the list here. Basically, just click on the software download kind of thing. You can download the software basically. Okay, so this is a way in which you can download the fixed packs from IBM websites basically. Okay, clear to this point? What are fixed packs? How IBM releases them? So IBM won't say anything. Just simply, if the new fixed pack is coming up, they will try to show here. Basically, you just need to bookmark this link and download the things basically. Okay. Simple question. Let's say I install 10.5 base version. Okay, so if you download it from the site, so you'll get this base version which is called as GA. GA is called as general acceptance. Okay, so base versions are normally vulnerable to bugs because they have IBM has written the code recently. Okay, and let's say you're hitting a bug or you're hitting an error, then if you contact IBM, IBM say always go to the latest fixed pack. So here you can see for 10.5 in my screen, this is the latest fixed pack, which is 7. Just go there, download the latest fixed pack and install it. I'll tell you how to install it and other things, but I'm just trying to cover the procedure. So this is a procedure to go to the latest versions basically. Okay, clear? Okay, so apart from this, now you know what is. So if you do DB2 level, if you don't know what are the fixed pack which was installed, the same command which I have told you before, the DB2 level, you can see here my server is running on 9.7, and you can see here what is a fixed pack. My fixed pack is 4, or it will be written here at the last. You can see it's 4 basically. Okay, so if you don't know what fixed pack was installed, you can simply download. You can simply run the DB2 level command. It will tell you what version of what version was installed and what is a fixed pack also. Basically, it will cover both the things basically. Okay. And I'll cover one more thing. Okay, so these are today's is most onto theoretical. I thought of covering the architecture of DB2 today. Okay, but these things are very much important before getting started. Okay, so I'll cover the architecture and the DB2 installations in the next class. Okay, so let's see what are DB2 products basically. Okay, so if you're planning to write some certifications or these things, IBM asks a lot in the certifications exams. Okay, so you should know what are the products of IBM. See, let's keep a simple. Give a simple example. Let's say I think nowadays it's an automobile world. So let's say we have a phone by name Samsung. Okay, so Samsung has different products basically. Let's say Samsung has Note, Samsung has Grand, Samsung has Duos. Let's say Duos comes for $3,000 and Samsung Grand comes for 20,000. Samsung S4 and S5 and S6, those things they come around $35, $35,000. And Note, if you go with the Note latest, it comes something around 45,000. Okay, so if you see that the Samsung is a company which is releasing multiple products. Okay, why it is releasing the multiple products? Because the customer will purchase the product according to his according to his need. Okay, so let's say my need is only to make a phone call. So I'll go with the Duos. I don't want to go with Note or Grand or S5 or S6 kind of thing. Okay, some other customer he has a need of preparing the presentations in the phone. Might be having a need of preparing some documents on the phone, and he want to write something on the phone. So he'll go with Note. So he has a high budget. He can want to use the latest feature, so he can go with it basically. There may be some other guy whose requirement is just to use for chatting. Okay, so you can go with Grand or you can go with S4, S5 kind of thing basically. Okay, so what I'm trying to tell you here is a company releases multiple products and the customers will purchase the product according to their business needs basically. Okay, so if the customer is very rich in the market, which can he can purchase the latest things, or he can purchase a phone which has all the features. Okay, on the same lines, DB2 people, they won't release a single product for each and every version. They release multiple products. Okay, I'll try to write few of the products here. Just make a note of it. These things are important. So you can see here there are 5 different products which I have mentioned here. One is Personal Edition, second is Express Edition, third is WSC, which stands for Workgroup Server Edition, fourth is ESC, which stands for Enterprise Server Edition, and the next is Triple E, which stands for Extended Enterprise Editions, basically. Okay. So if you look at all the product names, so IBM releases these products for each and every version. So when I say 10.5 is releasing, IBM is going to release the Personal Edition. They're going to release the Express Edition, Workgroup Server Edition, ESC, and Triple E. Okay. So if you're wondering what are these products, so try to understand that. See, Personal Edition, it's a simple software basically. Let's say if you go to any department stores, and there are famous department stores in Hyderabad like Vijayata, and we have something called More or something basically. Okay. So the need for them is to just select the products which you have purchased and bill it. So they just try to sum all the values and they'll give you the bill basically. Okay. So the software which they use there is very simple software which does not have the big features. They don't want high availability features. They don't want security. They simply want a software, the database software, which stores the rate of each and every product and which adds up when you select the product basically. Okay. So that product we call it as Personal Edition. Personal Edition is very simple thing. You can install the software on your PCs or your servers. You can use it, and remember it does not have a client server architecture, which means that people cannot connect to your personal server from outside world. It's a simply server where you can install it, where you can use it. A lot of college people, university people, they use Personal Editions. A lot of people with small businesses like retail shops, they use Personal Editions basically. Okay. The second edition is called Express Edition. So every company, when they're releasing a product, they release something called Express Edition. If you go to SAP, they say SAP Express Edition. Oracle people also, they call it Express Edition. So every company, when they're releasing a product, they release something called Express Edition. Express Edition is an edition which does not have all the features, but you can download it from the internet, you can use it. Okay. So Personal Edition and Express Editions are free downloadable. You can download it simply. You need not pay any money to IBM. Simply download it and use it. But they might not be having all the features what you really need. If you want to just test it, you can just download it and use it basically. Okay. And a lot of company people, they use these 3 type of softwares, which is called a WSC, Workgroup Server Edition, Enterprise Server Edition, and Extended Enterprise Server Edition. Okay. I'll just try to put it. If your company client requirement is, if you want to store something around 1 terabyte of data, and if you're having something around 4 to 8 CPUs with less than 16 GB, if you're running a projects basically which are very less cost, like in Hyderabad, as I told you in the last class, we have Is Vmware. Is Vmware is a very small application, small database, which does not have a high budgeting, so they don't have huge budgets. Okay, so they are using WSC, which stands for Workgroup Server Edition basically. Okay, so the data will be less than their databases will be very small, and they don't use very high sophisticated servers. These servers are very which are having 4 CPUs with 16 GB, less than 16 GB RAM kind of thing. Okay, for server editions which does not need huge amount of space, which does not require huge amount of resources, they'll go with some editions which are called WSC, which is called Workgroup Server Editions basically. Okay. And a lot of companies, 90% of the companies where you work, they use a software which is called Enterprise Server Edition. This is important, and you will hear this word throughout the course, which is called ESC. Okay. And if your company is having storing less than 5 terabytes, if they're having 16 to 64 CPUs in their servers, and if they're dealing with 64 GB plus, so even I'll be sharing you the Enterprise Server Edition software basically. Okay, so if your client is a banking domain or a telecommunication or insurance kind of thing, if he wants to store data which is less than 5 terabytes with 16 core CPUs kind of thing, if the server configuration is something around 16 to 64 kind of thing, and if he's having 64 GB of RAM or something, they use a software, DB2 software, which is called as Enterprise Server Edition. In short, we call it as ESC basically. Okay, and if your databases are very huge, like warehousing kind of thing, let's say my database is more than 200 terabytes, very huge amount of data. Let's say, I'll give an example. Let's say there is a bank. See, I have an account in HDFC. The HDFC bank is storing all the transactions which I'm doing in 2008 year, 9 year, 10 year. So does the bank store all the historical data? Yes. Where do they store the data? In here servers, which are called warehousing servers. For storing huge amount of data, what kind of DB2 product I have to use? You have to use a product which is called EEE, which stands for Extended Enterprise Edition, basically. Okay. So you can see here there are different products which are defined by IBM, and mostly in companies they use ESC, which stands for Enterprise Server Edition. If your data is very, very huge, like as I told you, like if you let's say I'll give you a simple example. There is a nano car basically which produces the car every year. They want to find out like how many cars it has to produce in the next 3 months. Okay, so they have to make a decision like how many cars has to be produced basically. So they cannot make a decisions of randomly. What they will look at it is they look at the historical data. They look at how many cars were produced in 2014, how many cars were produced in 2015, how many cars were produced in 2013. So by looking at the historical data, the old data, they'll come up with some analysis, and they'll try to make a figure of how many cars has to be produced basically. Okay, so the data is very important. So a lot of companies, they store your historical data, they try to make some analytics out of it, and they try to generate reports. Okay, clear to this point? Okay, so as I told you, this is important. ESC is important. Rest of the things are just for information purpose. Okay, just keep it in mind. That's all basically. Okay. So if you want to find out like what product was installed on your server, if you don't know what product was installed, there is one more command. Just make a note of this command for today. So this is a command which will tell you what product was installed. You can see here LICM means my license status basically. As I told you here, these two does not require license. They are free downloadable. You can use it. But if you want to use WSC, pay some cost to IBM. You need to take a license from IBM. If you want to use ESC, you need to pay money to IBM. If you want to use EEE, you need to pay money to it. Can you tell me out of these three, which one will be very costly license? Is it WSC or ESC or EEE? Which one do you think is very, the costly thing basically?
EEE.
Yeah, it will be EEE because EEE has a lot of functionalities. It has a lot of features basically. Okay. So that's the reason any warehousing people where they want to store huge data, so they go with this. The the real-time kind of scenarios people, or the online transactional processing kind of people, they go with ESC. The less amount of databases like the eSeva kind of thing, which does not have a number of features or big features, they go with the WSC basically. Okay. And let's say you joined a company where you don't know like what version of DB2 was installed. We know a command to see it. If you don't know what product was installed, if you don't know, just this is a command, just make a note of this command. LSEM will tell you what is a license manager. -L, as I told you, will list the things. Okay. You can see here, this server is having ESC, which stands for Enterprise Server Edition. It will tell you what is the license type. This is a trial. I installed trial version basically, but in companies it won't be trial, it will be permanent license. Here you can see that my license will expire on some date basically, but in companies you won't see any expiration dates. They will take the lifetime licenses for the products basically. Okay. So in case if you don't know what product was installed, just run this command, you can easily find it out. Okay. Or if you want to apply a license in future, I'll tell you how to apply the licenses, but this is a command which you will be using, which is LSCM basically. Okay. Clear to this point? What is products? I mean, this is more onto theoretical topic, but you should know these things. If you don't know these things, there is no pointing in moving forward. Okay, so you should know what are the versions of DB2. You should know what are the products of DB2. We can move forward from that point. Okay. Any questions to this point? Okay. Okay, if you don't have any questions, okay, we'll do one thing. We'll also stop it for today, basically. Okay. Tomorrow, I'll definitely start with DB2 architecture. I have the diagram. Okay. I'll download. Okay. So if you want to just go through it before the next class, I'll give you the link from where you can download it. Okay. You can. So this is the link where you can. Tomorrow I'll start with the DB2 architecture. I'll tell you. If you install DB2, what all components will be installed at the backend, what all process will be running, how the process will be interacting with each other. We'll see about the architecture tomorrow. And once the architecture is done, I'll teach you how to install DB2. Okay. So once the DB2 installation is also done on Linux, basically, then you can start working on DB2. I'll give you the links from where you can download the software. Simply download the softwares. As I told you, I open the link and download the software, and you can open it and run the commands. What I'm seeing. Okay. So any questions before we wind out for today? Any questions before we stop or something? Clear about the things? Okay. Today is also like the basic understanding of DB2. So this is not the actual starting of the course. From tomorrow we'll start it really. Basically we'll start with the DB2 installation, DB2 architecture, and we'll see the other things basically. Okay. Any questions? Hello? Okay. So if you don't have any questions, okay, just you can join tomorrow at the same time. Okay, we'll start with the next topic. Okay, the same thing. The 15 minutes will be for Linux. Rest of the things will be for DB2 kind of thing, basically. Okay. Thanks for joining the things. Okay, we'll meet again tomorrow then. Okay, bye.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thanks. Bye. I'm stopping the meeting then. Okay, bye.
So, sir, one question.
Yep, tell me here.
Can you please send this video on daily or?
Yeah. Video. I think I'll speak with these people. The Visualpath people. They will be sending you the emails. Okay. I'll be sending you the material. I'll be giving the links for these things. But the recordings are done by Visualpath people, so they will send you.
Okay, sure. Oh, sure.
Okay. Sure. Okay. Yeah.
So daily 7 to 8, sir. Class time.
Daily it will be 7 to 8:30. So this is the second class, right? So we are not going till 8:30. So what is the time now?
8 o'clock.
8:15.
8:15 or something, right? Okay, we'll have it from 7 to 8:30 daily. Okay.
Right.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. So we'll stop it. Then we'll meet tomorrow. Then. Okay. Bye.
Thank you.
Hello, sir.
Yeah. Tell me. Yeah.
Sir, in next class, will you show me how to install virtually? Means VMware.
Yeah. Yeah. See, what I'll do. I'll follow. First, we'll see what is the architecture of DB2. That will take 30 to 40 minutes. Okay. After that is done, I'll show you how to install DB2 on Linux machines only, basically. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we'll go step by step. Don't worry. Okay. If it takes more classes, nothing will happen. Okay. We'll cover all the things, basically. Okay.
Sir, will you send me the notes also daily, which we are telling on?
Yeah, I'll send the things which I'm writing here also. I'll send these things also. Don't worry. Okay.
Sir, and one more thing, if some more classes by the time mistake, right? We are missing some more classes. We want to revise the video once again. So will you provide me the?
Yeah, video. I think the last class they have sent you the video, right?
Yes, sir. Like that, every class they will send, sir.
Yeah, I'll speak with them. I think I'll ask them to send whether they will be sending it or not. Normally, what happens if you're missing any classes in between, they used to send the videos basically.
Yeah,
but yeah. Tell me.
Sometimes we are able to connect the internet and we are unable to connect the internet. If you provide me the video, it is very helpful.
Yeah, if you're missing some classes, definitely the video will be provided to you because they record for all the sessions basically. Okay, I'll speak with them. I'll send you the videos for all the things. I'll ask them.
Yeah, please.
Don't worry about it. Sure.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Sure. Sir, is there any 7 o'clock or 6:30? Is there any possibility to move, sir?
To move it further?
6:30.
I mean below, right? 6:30, right? Yeah. I'll do one thing. I'll bring up this in the tomorrow's class. If all the people are okay with it, then we can move it. No issues for me, basically.
Okay. Okay, sir.
Okay. Because if all the people are agreeing from 6:30, also we can start at 6:30. No issues with that. Okay.
Okay. Okay, sir. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Sure. Okay. So we'll stop it for today. Okay. We'll meet tomorrow then. Okay. Bye.